Thank you, everybody, for joining another episode of Intentwise Connect. Today, we are talking about how to guide spotting trends on Amazon. This is going to be a really informative presentation on the Product Opportunity Explorer and the Search Query Performance Dashboard. And we have an exciting guest today, Matt Snyder, who we'll introduce in a minute. Before we jump into the presentation, I want to go over some logistics really quickly. So today's webinar is being recorded. We will share the recording early next week with everybody who's registered. So if there were some people from your team who weren't able to make it, or you want to share this recording with others, please do so. Keep an eye out in your inbox for the recording and the slides next week. Before we jump into Matt's presentation here, I want to take just a quick minute to introduce Intentwise. So if you haven't heard of Intentwise, or you're not exactly sure what we do, real quick explanation is we have what we call the Intentwise e-commerce cloud, which is our suite of software applications for brands, agencies, and aggregators that sell on Amazon and Walmart. We have three core applications. The first is our Intentwise Ad Optimizer, which is a retail-aware ad optimization platform, helps you change bids across all of your campaigns with rules and AI. In the middle, we have Intentwise Analytics Cloud, which is a robust e-commerce data infrastructure, helps you automate the collection, connection, enrichment, and visualization of all of your e-commerce data from Amazon and Walmart. And lastly, we have Intentwise Explore, which is our AMC solution. It's a platform built on top of Amazon Marketing Cloud, which allows you to extract value and insights from AMC without writing SQL or needing to build custom reports yourself. So if you're interested in learning more about Intentwise or any of our products, feel free to reach out to us, or you can book a meeting at intentwise.com/meetings. With that being said, Matt, I'm happy to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and walk us through today's presentation.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the invitation to speak here today, meet with the group. So first, I'll start by saying we're a huge fan of Intentwise. We use the platform here at Vari for a lot of different purposes, from obviously a lot of reporting, but what you mentioned there at the end is what we're most excited about is Intentwise AMC. It's been one of these kind of elusive reports. We've heard all about the great benefits of it, and it's been a little challenging to fully utilize those reports, and so we're very excited about what Intentwise is offering here and the simplification of these reports and the access it's going to give us. So very excited about that one, just to highlight that for everybody.
Awesome.
So so my name is Bess. I'm the Vice President of Online Retail for Vari. Some may know us as Bear Desk. So we are in the office space furniture category. So we primarily sell high adjustable desk. So I'm responsible for both Amazon as well as our other third-party e-commerce partners. So for us, that represents Office Depot, CDW, Walmart, and a handful of others. So I've been in this, in the kind of e-commerce industry for about 15 years. I was originally part of the Woot.com crew back in the day. If you are familiar or a fan of the daily deal industry back in the day. So in total over the years, responsible for about over 500 million in online revenue, primarily through Amazon. So been able to engage with many different brands and products, which is one of the things I love about this industry, is that it's always changing and evolving, and you've got to stay with, keep up with the industry and these new tools and services that come out to really stay on and keep that advantage and edge in this industry. So with that, I'm excited to kind of talk about a couple of different tools that we've been really utilizing here at Vari to keep ahead of the competition. We are in a category that is highly diluted in terms of competitors, and we are a premium product. So, on top of the large number of competitors, we also have this, challenge of being, in some cases, 2-3 times the price point of most of our competitors. So it's really, critical for us to understand where do we have market opportunities from a traffic perspective. How are we where are we seeing either downgrades or upgrades in our traffic conversion, added carts and such. And that's where we really utilize these tools to help us from a revenue perspective. But we've also used these tools with our product team as we're thinking about, how do we differentiate ourselves in this market? If we're not going to be able to lead and win on pricing, how can we lead and win on either product designs and offerings that separate us from the market? And that's where as we get into talking about product opportunity and category insights, there's some really interesting things that brands should be leveraging and utilizing to help them make that differentiation throughout the category. So we'll talk a little bit about these brand tools. Focus first here on the search query performance. We'll kind of dive into, there's a lot of misinformation or unknowns around what is this data, and as I compare this to search performance or ad performance or maybe some other tools out there, there can seem to be these inaccuracies. So it's really understanding how is Amazon reporting this data and what is it they're sharing with us to better understand how to implement and take action on that data. Then we'll jump into product opportunity and category insights, and probably just give some tips on how to better utilize these tools in with your brand. So first, what is search query performance? A lot of talk about this, and what this is Amazon's giving us a ton of data, and which is a welcomed addition. For many years, Amazon was very tight with the data they would share with brands and with sellers. And within the last 2 years, they really have opened up the floodgates, providing brands and sellers with data. And as more data comes to us, the challenge we have is how do we take all this information they're giving us and be able to put it into insights that then drive to actions. And so what we hope to kind of show you guys today is some ways of how we've been taking those steps to get to kind of the visualization and actions with this. But ultimately, what search query performance is telling us is help us understand what the search volume and rank for each keyword is, as well as kind of giving us an understanding of what that shopper journey is. And so as we start looking at this report, it's understanding where are we engaging the customer from the initial impression share to get that, to earn that click through to our detail page. Scrolling through, are we telling the brand story enough about the products or the benefits to get them to add a cart and ultimately make that purchase? And so as each customer is going through that, trying to understand either where we have opportunities to improve, opportunities to continue to scale, or where we have gaps where we need to go focus either on improving the traffic or improving our conversion. So within this method, there's two ways to look at this. There's the brand view, which gives us more of our overall traffic performance. And then there's ASIN, where we can drill in on a specific product and see the performance there. So we'll kind of take a look at both of these solutions.
Matt,
first, yep, go ahead.
Is the search query performance report available to all sellers?
It's available to all sellers with brand registry. So if you do not have brand registry, you're not going to have access to information because it's pulling it for your brand specifically. So if you are part of brand registry, then this should be available to you in your Seller Central platform.
Got it. Thank you.
As we kind of mentioned earlier, there's a lot of questions sometimes around, when I look at this keyword and I look at the impression share, or I look at the add to cart, my sales, the sales don't match anywhere close to where our actual sales are. And that's where this communication or understanding between what is Amazon telling us. So understanding the difference between normalized and denormalized data is really critical here. So normalized data would be where you are looking at, for example, when we talk about our advertising, Amazon says unique impression between a 24-hour period. So you think like an impression versus detail page. The session that count is a single use experience for the 24-hour period. Well, what Amazon's counting here is all activity within a 24-hour period. So for example, here, I've got the search term down below for standing desk. So when a customer first makes that search enter into Amazon, the first thing that's going to count is every single impression or listing on that page. So if it's 40 ASINs, 60 ASINs, every ASIN on that page is going to get automatically counted as an impression. So there's no concept here of scrolling to generate the impression. It's if the ASIN comes up in the search performance, that is a impression share. In this case, if the customer was to click back to page 2, then all those impressions on page 2 would get counted. If they were to click back to page 1, now it's going to count that page 1 count again. So again, there's understanding that every single click or movement from the customer is generating another count of an impression share here. So it's kind of both organic and paid search, and there are some nuances on the search side that we'll get to in the next slide. But understanding that all the sponsored product placements, all of organic is getting included here. And as we kind of talk about, there's no concept here of scrolling. So everything on the page is getting counted as an impression share. So what's not getting counted is anything that's within the paid ad widgets, along with climate pledge friendly, highly rated products, sponsor brand videos. If a customer were to come from your brand store page to your detail page, all these type of interactions or drives to your detail page would not get counted and that. So again, understanding what's getting counted, what's not getting counting, and where this gets a little more complicated or granular is when we start talking about child ASINs. And so just to kind of give an example here, I've got this reef sandals. So if I was enter the search term reef sandals branded search, right? The initial ASIN here, so this first one that we have would get the impression share. But as I clicked into this and just determined that actually, you can see on the far right where we have you have a size selection, you have color variations. If I were to click on, in this case, the brown is going to get the initial impression share, but then as I were to click on this blue pair, that's going to get the click. And then if I were to switch that and go to a different size option or color variation and added that to my cart, that would get the cart. So you have to kind of think through as the customer is making these different changes or navigations throughout that journey. It's not always going to be a one-to-one comparison all the way across. Those values in terms of impressions, clicks, add to carts, purchase vary based upon the ASIN that the customer ultimately lands on. So I'll pause there just to make sure there's no questions that are kind of coming in, because I know some of this can get a little confusing in terms of what's counting and not getting counted. But it's important to understand.
We do have one more just qualifying question, Matt, and that's whether or not the search query performance report is available to vendors. Do you know?
I don't believe it is. At this time, I believe it's only available on third-party sellers, which, that's a whole other topic of debate of like, what's more valuable, 1P or 3P? And, I've always made the argument, I find that the 3P side has been more beneficial to brands for many different reasons, this being one of them. There is a separate report on the vendor side. I don't recall the technical name for it now, but it's actually something like they pay for this information. And as on the 3P side, we don't always understand, the vendor side, but there's a report that they pay a lot of money to get these type of insights. And for us as sellers on the 3P side, this is just part of the tools that Amazon arms us with to improve our performance on Amazon. So again, great value of being a 3P seller.
We've seen a lot of that, especially recently. Amazon is just continuing to invest in 3P seller tools and data. So very interesting.
So with that, we'll kind of jump into a couple of different, I've got some pages pulled up here in my account, and we'll kind of walk through this path. But again, what we're going to be looking at here is the search query performance is going to tell us our search query volume. So you can see here initially, there's what we call the score. And Amazon doesn't necessarily define what this formula is, but what it is telling us is that it is giving us some signals here as these are the keywords that are a high priority or should be a high priority to a brand. And so as we kind of get through, you'll start seeing the evaluations in terms of the health, the kind of journey. But as you're thinking of kind of where to start, starting with where Amazon's telling you your search query score is would be the area to kind of put your initial focus. But from there, as you kind of go through the customer journey, we're looking at the impressions, so the visibility on that search page. Do we gain the click, get the customer to our detail page? Where do we entice them enough to add the cart and find to make that purchase? So with that, let me just switch over to my account here, and we will start taking a look here. Okay, so I have pulled up here the search query reforms. I've gone ahead and entered here, so it's pretty basic. If we're under your Seller Central account, right, we're going to come to brand analytics. So how we navigate to it, you select your brand. If you have multiple brands, you can navigate between each different brand and select your date range. The first call, as we mentioned, there's brand view and ASIN view. For this kind of get started here, I've got us pulled up here to the brand view. And no surprise here, like a lot of branded keyword terms. That's Amazon's. We definitely lean a lot into branding. Again, being a premium product, we compete much better when we can get customers higher up in the funnel of getting them to think about our brand before they get to kind of that final transaction point in the customer journey, where if they're just looking for standing desk with no brand affiliation or awareness, we're lined up against desks that are, again, third of our price or half our price, much harder for us to win. So we really try to think of the upper funnel health and awareness that we can build with the customer. So you're gonna see a lot of branded terms here, but as we kind of go across here, you see the top search query volume, and then think of these in terms of like upper funnel, starting at the upper funnel, moving all the way down. So we're at impression share. So for our top keyword here, Veridesk, you can kind of see the total count. When we look at brain count, so that is our 24,000 is our share of the total count here of the 60,000. So which then gets represented by the 40%. And so if you kind of keep that same type of breakdown of total count, your brand count equals your brand share, we can kind of track that then all the way across in terms of from here, we had 24,000 impressions for that keyword term. Of those impressions, it generated 406 clicks into our detail page, which represented a 56% share. Again, this being a keyword term, that does some of the opportunity. One of the things that would kind of jump out here, 56% is a decent amount, but for a branded term that's highly critical for us, tells me where there's some gaps here and to our both our organic as well as our paid, where we probably need to shore this up a little bit so we have a higher percentage of brand share into this click. Because at this point, right, 45% of those clicks in our branded term is going to a competitor listing. So going through there, what gets added in the cart? Again, 50%. So not a huge drop off here. What would be looking for in some cases here, and maybe standing desk would be an example of, we've got a lower share of brand share impression here. And so what we're kind of looking for here is a discrepancy here. So an area where maybe I have a really high, let me see if we can spot one real quick. Yeah, here. So we have a 50% brand share. So when customers do come to our page, 50% of the time they're adding it to their cart, right? And so here, sorry, I was offline. This actually is pretty good, 60%. What I'm looking for here is something where this number is lower, right? Here's an example, 33% to 38%. So what I would want to do here is when I see that cart ad is actually a higher percentage than my impression share, then I want to get more impressions to it. So that gives me some signals there that I want to go back to either my media side or maybe think through my SEO side of how do I make some adjustments to gain more both organic and paid search for that keyword where I'm seeing some signals that I'm getting.
The insight there, Matt, sounds like it's, if you're not getting that initial click from the search results page as often, but once they actually land on your page, they understand the value and are adding it to their cart. Maybe there's optimization, right. Click-through rate.
Right. So again, if we think about that, go back to the placement or the initial impression, when the customer makes that search term, every placement on that page is getting counted. So if I'm bottom of the page organically, or maybe if my advertising is rest of search, but I'm not bidding high enough on that top search placement. So then the action there is either increase my placement, my placements there, the top of placement, or work to get my organic up. So those are two eventual actions. Now the other would be is there something I'm not doing with my hero image, doing some A/B testing with that hero image to kind of improve that click through. So it's page placement through organic, through your paid, and ultimately also your creative of testing that and seeing if you can improve that click through.
Amazing. This can be a really helpful way to prioritize which keywords to start with. To your point, looking for that discrepancy.
Exactly. Right. And so as we kind of get to the next step, then you get into purchases. And again, what we're looking for is we kind of start, we're to apply the same logic here. Now, are we seeing areas where we're over indexing on purchases to add to carts? Or are we seeing a big drop? Kind of the inverse, right? Those changes between those kind of journeys gives us the indications of where do we have. In this case, we're getting them to our detail page. We're getting them to add a cart, but then a high drop off. So did we not do a good enough job in the brand story or the product story to ultimately get them to make the purchase? And that's gets a little bit more critical or able to help as we get into the ASIN view. And so here I've pulled up, let me pull up a ASIN view here. So make sure you've seen the updated slide or page here.
Yes.
So this is for one of our products. This is our active chair. And so you can see here, again, it starts with at the keyword level and kind of walks you through that same kind of funnel progression. But what's different here is if for this particular keyword, so very active share, again, branded, high value term for us, is we can click in and see the actual performance then for that keyword. We can see total impressions, what's our total clicks, click rate. This is kind of at the query level, but then at our ASIN level, click share, it's working 73% of click share, 5% of the impression share. But then down here, product title gives us our other competitors. In this case, we have another active stool that's similar to this one, but we can kind of see these other competitors who are also gaining from the same keyword traction. So the insights here would be understanding it. Do any of these have greater impression share than what our product has? And right. So then do we need to increase our advertising towards these efforts? Ultimately, we want to make sure that this has the highest click-through rate as well. So you can see here we have pretty healthy coverage. 73% is of the times customers are clicking through to this product. So it tells me we're actually in a pretty healthy position here. But this would be another way to kind of look at that specific ASIN level to see the health of your funnel.
Super interesting.
And one of the other kind of call outs here that Amazon's always adding to this is this new customer loyalty analytics. Not available yet, but at least for me, I think there's some beta users who have access to it. But customer loyalty, this is going to be another really interesting one to keep an eye on and jump into as we think about it. Because even for us as a furniture product, we actually have a high number of repeat customers. So a lot of our customers are business buyers, and so those business buyers are repeatedly buying for different people in the offices. And so being able to kind of track that and have that lifetime value measurement is really important for us. And so that's been something we've had to kind of create our own report and methods to track that. So the fact that Amazon's now make this much easier for us, it's gonna be another great tool that Amazon's adding to our tool set here. Lastly, I think so that kind of gets us through most of what we had here for search query performance. So we kind of talk about like other ways that you can help put this all into a visualization. Obviously, as we kind of saw on the first page, like this is a lot of data, but you are able to generate like a download here and export this into Excel. There's a couple different ways you could try to gain deeper insights into it. One of the ways that we found is using Google Data Studio, so Looker Studio, and I'll give a shout out to the team over at Increment on Digital. We didn't build this; you guys did a phenomenal job to Mansoor and Leron and the team. So shout out to them for creating this and sharing it freely with everybody. So if you've not had access to this, I encourage you to reach out to me or the team there, and they would gladly share with you. But this helps us take all this data and put it into a visualization, but then it helps us actually kind of draw some type of actions from it. So you can see here, it kind of gives us a brand rank to that of the market, where we can kind of see how are we doing relative to the rest of the market. So right here, where we're actually having a pretty high click-through rate compared to the market. Cart ads, right, we're dropping a little bit. So the insights there is, one, we have price difference. We're not changing the price, but there are things we can do promotionally, add coupons, run different type of promotions, work on our content, whether it be the image stack or our A+ premium, to better tell that product differentiation or the product values that we're trying to sell, and a little bit to the purchase rate. And what's great here is we kind of scroll down, you can kind of see changes over time. And if we wanted to get into specific keywords, we can kind of click here and it'll update. So with all this is fantastic, but it also requires a lot of work to maintain. So with that, let me just pause for a sec, because I wanted to say one of the things I'm excited about was something that you guys are bringing here soon. So
yeah, this is a good segue into something that Intentwise has been working on. So thank you, Matt. Obviously, being a data provider for many brands and agencies, we have set up a lot of the infrastructure to set up custom reports like this. And the search query performance report specifically is something that we are adding to Intentwise Analytics Cloud by the end of this year. So you'll be able to craft custom visualizations for search query performance just like this with your own data, but you can also today do that with Intentwise Analytics Cloud to combine and unify ads and retail data, inventory data, and all of the other fragmented data sources from Amazon. So When it comes to visualization, we're very comfortable with Looker Studio, Power BI, and all these other tools. So if you have questions on how to get the most out of it, definitely don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, I'm personally super excited. Again, I love what we're working with today, but it does require a lot of continued maintenance and updates. And so, the ability to try and continue just to add more value for us on Intentwise, we're really excited about that.
Yeah. Matt, we did get a couple of questions since you pulled up this visualization. I think it got some people thinking. Real quick, first one, what kind of insights are you able to get from visualizing the data this way as opposed to just looking at it in Amazon? How does this help you and your team?
So, when we're looking at it and just in the Seller Central platform, we're looking at a specific timeline. So whether we set it for a week, a month, whatever that period is. So it's hard to kind of see what is the trend lines changing over a period of time, or if we're looking at this on a weekly or monthly basis, and then we're going and taking action, whether we're changing our advertising strategy, our SEO, and so bullets and titles, do we make some changes to our creatives to help address conversions or click through? Right, it's hard to kind of measure those changes if you're just looking in Seller Central at the specific timeline. So what this helps us do then is be able to visualize that over a period of time, and be able to do that at a product level or at a keyword level. So it just makes it a much easier process to try and visualize and see that performance change as we're making tests and changes.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, especially with this kind of stuff, that's really what you're looking for, is the change over time. So lacking that within the console natively makes perfect sense. One more question. Would you say, this might be a hard one to answer, but is there a specific metric in the search query performance data that has been the most helpful in terms of surfacing a opportunity?
One particular, I guess, we're always, while we do have a lot of branded search, we're always trying to find those either long tail keywords or category keywords where we can get some traction. Again, knowing where the price parity is offset for us, we're priced quite a bit higher. So where do we find those opportunities where we start getting really good click through and add to cart and purchases, where I can then zero in and help bring up that impression share. So I would say that's been one of the areas for us of finding new traffic keywords to go after and target. But also as for us, the price being a hard sell for us, right? That is customers are often value driven. So that goes back to our creatives. And so as we're making these creative changes, whether that be the hero image or A+ premium, there's also you can measure conversion overall at your cat level or ASIN level, but then kind of going back to those specific keywords. Is there specific keywords we make these changes that we see pops a little higher than the others, and from that we can draw some insights into, based off that keyword term, is that kind of indicate a unique customer profile that maybe we should be more aware of. So I'd say those are kind of the two ways that we're looking at it to kind of draw some actions on our side.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions there, we'll kind of jump into the next one, which is the Product Opportunity Explorer.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll come up here to the menu option. We come down to Growth and Product Opportunity Explorer. So with this, you can start off with either a search by keyword or an ASIN. So in here, what we'll do is I've already kind of loaded this one up here. So we'll go ahead and view this as a niche first. So this is the keyword standing desk. So first off, what we get is we get some high level understanding to the overall search volume for this. This is the last 360 days. How's the search volume changing? So this is actually kind of in a downtrend, which isn't surprising. Again, over the last 3 years, through the big insurgent of work from home, this category has seen massive growth in terms of traffic. So we're not not a surprise to see that this is kind of at a decline at this time. Then you get average price, and this is an interesting one to keep an eye on, because definitely over time, as categories mature, prices come down as more competitors come in. For example, like this probably a year ago was about a $240 retail average, now down to $180. So these are things that you keep an eye on and awareness on as you're thinking about new products. Is what's the kind of maturity level from a retail price, knowing that ultimately people try to win on price, and that price is going to be coming down. And further, then you again kind of going through the funnel here, total clicks, click share, and we get this at a ACE level. So you can see this, for example, is getting 11% of the overall click share for the keyword standing desk. Get insights into the average selling price, total reviews, and number of sellers. From there, we can get into search terms. And there's all kinds of different ways today, whether using various different tools to get relevant keywords. But here, what Amazon's telling you is these are the most relevant keywords. I want to say there's 25 total here. So these are like the top 25 relevant keywords for the niche within standing desk.
And so Amazon is determining those keywords, right?
Correct.
What's the input?
So I believe what I've heard is like of the 90% of searches that result into a transaction or purchase are represented in this response.
Got it. Okay.
And from there, again, you see click share for this particular keyword. You can see of within the entire niche here. So those, someone search for standing desks. Maybe there's a obviously these kind of similar search terms to standing desk. But if you kind of think of that as the overall niche of the category, you can see the difference search volume or search trends for each individual one. So also what's interesting here is while these are kind of all in decline, you've got these two outliers, standing desk adjustable height, adjustable standing desk. The keyword there, like adjustables in both of these search terms. So to me, like that's something like maybe prior sellers weren't using that keyword as often in their titles or bullets, and now people are. So that's kicking up, increasing the trend. Also, click shares still overwhelmingly going with standing desk, but the one ultimately clicks into a conversion, a search conversion, right? So again, it helps us put some rank value into each of these search terms as we're going through it. Insights, I won't spend too much time here because I find this interesting. It kind of gives us some ideas into the number of products that's changed over the time. The one that's I would just call out here for people to really pay attention to is the average out of stock. And so while this is as important as if you're looking for maybe opportunities to get into new product categories or new product launches, it's finding areas here where there's a high out of stock rate. And so if you can kind of close that gap, that means there's a lot of demand where customers are making a purchase because of out of stock issues, where you can kind of come in and fill that gap from other sellers who are having issues with, for whatever reason, with their inventory. Trends, again, just give some visualizations then into this overall search volume. So here we're kind of looking over it's almost a 1 year period. So again, seeing how that search volume has changed over time. If we wanted to see that average price, again, I kind of mentioned earlier, a year ago we were at 246, and now that price is all the way down to 180. So again, as we're thinking about, do we want to enter this market? Is this a new product category we want to try to develop? It's really, really important to understand how that price changes over a period of time. And this is, again, invaluable information right here, as you guys are either at all stages. We were just using this the other day as we were trying to think through how to improve our content and how to help better sell the benefits of our products to our customers. So understanding, like, what do customers say about their products, either the benefits or the negatives. We all know sometimes the benefits can be a little skewed here from some review manipulation. So take that with a little grain of salt. But where I really try to focus in here is on the negatives. Where are the pain points of the customers in this product category that we can help solve? So in this case, difficult to assemble, problem with assembly, not very stable, no instructions, broken 2 months. And as we scroll down, then we kind of see the weight. How does within these pain points, what's the overall weight when it comes to customers when they leave their reviews? So how often are these pain points or values being talked about in the reviews? And so what stands out to me here is the assembly and installation, strength, and value for the money. So if I can help tell that or solve that problem, that pain point for the customer through our creatives, then I know I'm speaking to the customer, and ultimately I got to tell a story at the value for their money. For me, the way I'm going to really focus in then is how do I help tell them about the strength and stability of our product, as well as the ease of assembly. And for us, we say you can assemble our desk in under 10 minutes. So how do we really lean into that benefit and sell that to the customer when we're trying to sell them on a desk that's a higher price than that of the rest of our category. So I'll pause there for a moment. It's quite a bit we ran through. Is there any questions that have come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I'll just say this is super valuable information for all of our attendees on the call today. I mean, just this customer review insights alone, there are other tools out there that cost thousands of dollars that do this for you. So to have these available in Seller Central for free is a major benefit. And just as we can see from Matt walking us through the complexities here, a lot of sellers are probably not taking advantage of this. It's not, necessarily the most straightforward tools to use. So having the insight to how to put this together and actually take some actions for your business is super powerful. We do have one question as it relates to advertising specifically, Matt. Do you find that you're using this product opportunity explorer to help with advertising, either in terms of picking keywords or any other advertising strategy changes?
I'd say it's helped us more certainly on the advertising, and there's other tools we're using. We use Intentwise helps us with some keyword and insights and research as well too. And there's a few other tools we're using when it comes to writing our copy and bullets. And so I would say this is just another validation as we're kind of measuring keywords and opportunities across a couple different platforms. This is just another kind of reference points that we measure against it. And so for us, it's probably drives more of our consideration for as we're building out our titles and we're building out our bullets to understand which specific phrases are most important, as well as the keywords. So again, the phrase form becomes really critical when you're thinking through your titles and the placement of those keywords within the overall title limitations. So somewhat on the advertising, I'd say it's probably been more critical for us or beneficial on the SEO.
Awesome. Makes perfect sense. And to everybody else who's listening, if you have questions, please utilize the Q&A section or the chat box to send them to us. Thank you.
Excellent. And so with that, we'll kind of move into the final tool here that I was going to call out for everybody. And this is, again, I hear a lot of talk all the time in LinkedIn or other platforms around search query performance, and every time now and then a little bit about product opportunity explorer. But this is one I never hear anybody talking about. And personally, again, if you're in the product development side, early stages of new products, this is a hidden gem. So again, we're going to be under growth, under here marketplace product guidance, and from there we're going to pick category insights. And where this is really unique from some of the other tools is not only can I get insights for the United States, but if I'm thinking about going into Germany, Japan, like other countries, you can obviously the consumer preferences are going to vary based on the country. So if we're thinking about going international, maybe it's not even a new product that you're thinking about, but you're just thinking about going internationally. Great place to start here, understanding what's going to speak to that customer, what's going to be, what's the market trends or opportunities there as we're kind of making those evaluations. So before you go and invest a bunch of money into new market expansion, this gives you some insights into what the opportunity could look like there. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to pick the country, categories. I've already kind of come in here and I've selected office products, I've selected desk, and for us workstations. If you kind of know your subcategory or the category you want to look into, you can also just do it here through the search. It makes it really easy to get down into your specific category. From there, we've got you can select your kind of timeline that you're looking at. So right now we've got this set to the past 12 months, and Amazon's telling us in terms of units sold and net sales. So again, as we're looking over the last 12 months, I can see for the entire category of, in this case, workstations, desk workstations, I can see both the change in demand, but also like the seasonality, and here obviously July, that would be Prime Day, right? So that is, I guess, considered a seasonal trend. We always know, Prime Day is going to be coming around June, July. But if thinking back, like we were talking about Reef earlier in this webinar, a very seasonal product, and so being able to kind of understand like where those specific peaks and valleys are for a category. So as you're thinking about your inventory planning and product forecasting, like that's really important information to know. Like when do I need to have the product available, ready to go to FBA? When do what's my ramp up season for my advertising and everything? So this Amazon gives us some really great insights here into those seasonal trends. There's also here, if you want to see kind of, you can do compare year over year. So in this case, we can also see 23, so 23 and 22 now. You can see, is there any area like differences between the two? Here we can see the growth or the changes year over year. But also, again, going back to the seasonal trends, was there any change in this season's trend versus last season's trend? Glance views. So here where we're talking more, just these are actually units sold. Glance views shows us the total overall traffic. Again, you can do a year over year comparison here as well too. And here's where I think it's really interesting, and some information where you don't get this anywhere else in Seller Central. Search to purchase ratio. So this is telling me for every time a customer makes a search within this category, 1.36% of the time they make a purchase. It's not giving me a conversion rate here. If this is going to be kind of very based upon the category, if they have information they're going to share or not. But then you get into return ratio. And again, we want to minimize as low return as possible, right? That's where, if we want to be profitable, we want to get this down. And so going back and understanding the reasons, we kind of got that in the reviews on the product opportunity. And we're getting review pain points in terms of maybe how to improve the product to better show your benefits, but how do we reduce the returns? Unfortunately, this first one no longer needed. That's a tough one to solve for, but maybe that's going back and telling a better story about your benefits or your product differentiation, so that there isn't a surprise. Because I think oftentimes this is, I buy it, when I get it, this isn't what I thought it was, or maybe the quality wasn't there, or maybe it didn't solve the problem the way I thought it would, and so that creates the return. And this is going to vary, oftentimes, again, if you're like I can go back to sandals, sizing or something like that is often probably a common reason here. And so what can you do to improve your sizing chart or better help customers make that buying decision up front before they get before it creates into a return? Then we get into number of sellers. How competitive is the space? What's the number of competing brands, number of ASINs, number of new ASINs, right? How it gives you some great insights into just how competitive is this category and what's the changes over time. And then love this here. We can always want to understand what are what features draws the most attention to the customer. So that it's broken down into price and then some common features in this category. So unfortunately, we don't get to control what type of features Amazon displays here. But in this case, we're talking about a desk. So it's the number of drawers, the material, and then the width. And so with this, I can see that there's a ton of demand here at this 120 to 150 price range, 170, 200. But if I can look at this from the 150 up to 400, even 600, right? You can see the consumer demand at each of these different price levels. I can see how does the number of drawers in this case change the end user. So as I'm kind of thinking through my development or my product is, okay, I'd love to land in this 290 to 400 range. There's huge demand for at least between 0 and 1, but I can see that 1 has the most. I want to try and at least put 1 drawer in there that speaks to the values or features that customers find valuable. Engineered wood versus wood, why there's probably the demand here isn't so much because the customer prefers engineered wood. There's probably a cost savings for you as the manufacturer, or as the brand. But this is for us as another area of like, what's the preferred size and desk. And The only challenge here I would just give some caution to is just this doesn't necessarily spot untapped trends, but this is going to be more like what's the current demand. There's two ways to kind of think about this is 60-inch and above, like that's a pretty big range. So could we go in and find something above that area that maybe there's, again, going back to the search query performance of, is there search volume increasing for something, but the demand, like the products aren't there to meet that demand.
This is
So
very
that,
helpful in terms
yeah,
of just figuring out how to differentiate your products too, because
yeah,
it's like you said, it's kind of on both sides. It's both a measure of what's popular because it's what exists, but also if you do additional research on top of that, you can find out where there might be gaps, where maybe there's demand that exists, but it's not being met by a product that's being sold currently. And I think that's the insight that's super powerful from this. Yeah, and we did have a few quick questions on that too,
okay.
Matt. So first was specifically related to the demand tool. Have you found that it's pretty accurate in your experience in terms of predicting that seasonality? Like we looked at an example of Prime Day showing that spike. Have you had any issues with it?
So, with anything, it's hard to know specific absolutes. There's other tools out there, right, that have kind of given us some seasonality trends from either Unirank or right. So there's Keepa and a couple others. So I always would say what we do is I don't trust one report 100%, but if I can use something like Keepa to kind of compare the two, I think we can get a better answer in terms of like what is the true reality. So I think from what I found, it's been very, pretty accurate. Every now and then I'll find a little change between there and Keepa, but again, kind of using the two helps me kind of dial in a little bit more on those specifics.
Makes sense. And then one more question, sort of related, but have you noticed any data lag in the category insights?
Category insights. I have not, but it's again, it would be hard to kind of, I guess, know for sure. Whereas like on the API side, there certainly is, right? We always know like there's some lag between if there's an API connection that you're drawing to another reporting platform, there's going to be that lag. In this case, it's within the central platform, so you don't have necessarily the API lag that you would, but hard to say for sure because again, Amazon.
Yeah, probably the general rule, like it'll lag around Prime Day
Yeah,
and big
yeah,
sales events, but otherwise no real issues have been identified. Okay, awesome.
So with that, just some final just takeaways here, just in terms of kind of next steps and action items. What I would encourage people to think about is, establish a weekly or monthly cadence to review these reports. Also we kind of breaking these down between search query performance. You can look at this on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And I would say the frequency there kind of depends based upon, what is it that what kind of challenge or issue are you trying to solve for? On some of these, more on the brain side, I'm not necessarily looking at that on a weekly basis. That's probably more of a kind of a monthly trend. If I'm trying to improve my organic or placement on a specific keyword, then that's when I'm looking more on a weekly basis. If I've had a ASIN that's dropped off, had a dramatic change, and I'm trying to get that back up, that's going to be a weekly type of vision, update and looking at that. But also, like, don't allow this data to overwhelm. Start small, right? Just the takeaway here is like action. Just take some action and starting to get into these tools that Amazon has given us. We've been doing this for quite a while, so we've gotten further down the line. But the key thing is just start using these regularly to get more familiar and understanding and better equipped with how to improve your products and your listings. And then ultimately is, use data to create a keyword strategy to drive your SEO media plan. Again, what I tell people is like your product listings there's no such thing as evergreen when it comes to your product detail page. It's something that requires consistent maintenance and updates. And so using these tools to help measure those performance of your pages then drives the actions of how do we make these adjustments to continue to improve our SEO position, to improve our conversion, and always telling those benefits to our customers. So lastly, just being in this community for quite a while. I always love engaging with other sellers. So here's my contact information. Connect with me on LinkedIn or my email. I'm always glad to just jump on a call and give insights or help other sellers out. So
awesome. Yes, please connect with Matt. He's great. Obviously an expert when it comes to all things Amazon and Seller Central. And thank you, Matt, again for joining us today. I think this was an extremely informative session. So we're all coming out having learned a lot. We have one last question for you, Matt. Do you know how we can get access to that Looker Studio template that you shared? I think you mentioned Incrementum Digital shared that public.
A few ways. Feel free to shoot me a message or email me. I can forward you over. If not, I've accessed this. There's a couple different. Actually, Mansoor with Incrementum Digital has a YouTube. He has a great video. So if you go to YouTube, search for Incremental Digital, you'll find it. He'll walk you through how to set the tutorial up, and then there's a link on there to get the template sent to you for free.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Matt. This has been a great session. If you had any questions or missed a part of this, again, we will be sending out a recording early next week. So please share that internally with your teams and join us for the next session of Intentwise Connect. Thank you. We'll be signing off here. Thanks again, Matt.
Thanks, Ryan.